I'm Dan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is Bourbon Sauced. Welcome back. We've brought a special guest. We're sitting here in Nelson's, and we're with the head distiller. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Brand new head distiller for Nelson's Greenbrier.
That's awesome. So,
Thank you.
What brought you here?
Whew, man, that's a really good question. So I guess the very short answer is, I just like booze, and I just like making booze, and that's what I want to do. I was up in Kentucky and still am. I am the head distiller for Copper and Kings as well.
Okay.
But this opportunity popped up for me to kind of put this underneath the belt also. So I jumped at it. So I'm 50% in Kentucky and 50% down here in Tennessee, running both distilleries at the moment, just loving life.
That is a lot to take on. 2 different distilleries. Now, the other one does brandy, right?
Yeah, the other one's brandy, absinthe, and gin. We
Okay.
do a little bit of bourbon on the side, but yeah, we're mainly a brandy house.
Okay.
So how do you get into becoming a distiller or head distiller?
Right place, right time, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So I really had a passion for plants in the very get-go. Like, mother was a big plant person. We were always out in the garden doing stuff. I went to the University of Kentucky and got a bachelor's degree in horticulture, and was really going to go out west and do greenhouse crops. I kind of really fell in love with system setups and greenhouse design and hydroponics and stuff like that. And that's kind of really where my head was. So for my senior year, I had to pick a horticulture business and go out and write a report on it and do like all the financials and stuff and things of that nature. Well, my family had been in the wine business for quite some time, and my cousin had just moved back to Kentucky from Tennessee, where he was a vineyard manager and winemaker. And I thought, well, I'll go out there with him. We'll drink some beer for a couple of weeks. I'll write this report, and California I go. So after about 2 to 3 days of sitting out with the vines, it was like, holy shit, there's something here. And it's just something cool. The perennial aspect of it and just kind of watching that kind of just like got me a little interested. So I ended up going back to school, got my master's degree in plant and soil science with an emphasis on grapes and winemaking from the University of Kentucky as well. I was actually the very first person to graduate with that degree. They kind of had to make that degree for me, so to speak. But yeah, I worked for the university as a full-time extension specialist and got my master's degree part-time for free because I was a UK employee. So that's kind of how things got started. Went to work for my cousin for a while and worked for the university and just extension stuff. But then after a while, once I graduated, it was time to go commercial. So I went and worked for a winery and vineyard there in northern Kentucky, started managing that, and then ran across a South African couple that were beverage entrepreneurs. And they had this great idea. They were going to make American brandy in the grand state of Kentucky. And I was growing probably more American-style varieties of grapes than just about anybody else in the state. And that was the original plan, was to do original grape designs and make an original American brandy. So we kind of hit it off over some grilled cheeses, and then they asked me to come up and interview, and I walked in and saw these beautiful copper pot stills, and I was like, here we go. So I left the vineyard and moved to Louisville and have been making brandy ever since. Then about 2-3 months ago, this opportunity came up, so I jumped on it as well. Before I got into grapes, though, I was really doing small grain breeding for UK as well. So my first master's opportunity was to go out to Kansas and become a wheat breeder. So I got into small grains, corn, rye, all that good stuff. That's kind of where I kind of broke my teeth, and then kind of got into fruit from there. And now I'm making a full circle back.
That's kind of wild. I have to warn you, though. He's a Tennessee Vol fan, so.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I understand. It's a hard line when you cross that border, but that's all right.
Well, no, the best part is I'm born and raised in southeast Kentucky.
Oh, all right. Well, then you're probably getting it on.
He catches hell back home.
My mom's diehard UK.
Yeah.
My dad's side of the family's all from Tennessee, right across the border. So I grew up watching Tennessee football, but I grew up watching Rick Pitino coach Kentucky basketball.
All right, yeah, those were good years.
Right, but once Rick Pitino left, I was done with Kentucky.
Yeah.
So more or less, I followed him around on the basketball trail, and then college football's been Vols all the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, so for sure, UK fan.
Yeah.
Definitely the wife and myself are alumni. That being said, though, my oldest son just got a full ride to U of L. So like,
Louisville, huh?
I'm starting to wear a little red these days.
Cardinal fan.
All right.
That's a great school too, though.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
and it's changed a lot over the last several years. We're really excited to have him part of that. Yeah, he just started his freshman year, and yeah, he is living his best life.
Does he have a similar passion with grapes and?
No, he's all in
or-
politics.
Okay.
That's what he wants to do. He wants to go overseas and get into being an ambassador, and he
Nice.
really likes local politics. And I don't know where the hell he got it from, but yeah, it's pretty cool to watch.
So your transition from brandy to doing what you're doing here, how similar is that process when you're creating a mash for brandy versus bourbon?
Actually, really, really similar. Good whiskey takes a while, and even though the fermentation process is a lot shorter than what you see in a traditional wine, the thought, the taste profile, and the time to kind of really pick that out is really, really the same. I found being a Kentucky winemaker, I learned what not to do a lot. It kind of really tweaked my taste profile, and I really feel like as I come in and get back into whiskeys and start blending and doing single barrels and stuff like that for Nelson's, that aspect and that taste profile experience has really come in handy, I guess.
So what is your flair that you bring here for that flavor profile? Are you changing it at all? Are they giving you a little leeway on that, or does it have to be the same cook, or it's different cook, same recipe?
Different cook, same recipe.
Okay.
I mean, we've got a beautiful lineup here with Nelson's, and I'm definitely not trying to come down here and redesign the wheel.
Right.
My goal as the new head distiller is really just kind of promote consistency and make sure that as Nelson goes through changes, that the customer doesn't taste a difference in the bottle.
Okay.
I'm so excited and so proud of the quality that I've inherited here, and I can only hope to be able to keep that up. Now, that being said, I do like innovation. I do like to play with stuff. We are messing with some new products that we're going to hopefully see within the next year or so. I'm really excited about some of the single barrel finishes that we're going to do. I think we're going to talk about the bottle your own experience a little bit later. That's kind of where I come into play. It's just like slowing things down, steadying the ship, making sure that the consistency gets better, if not, even a lot better. And then just making sure that I'm telling the story the best I can.
That's awesome. Now you were talking about the single barrel process.
Mm-hmm.
You had a question pertaining to that.
So with that, yeah. So with the single barrel process, right? What is it that you look for when you're picking or selecting a single barrel?
So
Characteristics and stuff.
First and foremost, it kind of goes back to if we're just looking at new American oak barrels and we're just dealing with the whiskey, or if we're looking for single barrels with some flair. So I'm always about that team experience. I want as many people to be involved in this as possible. When we go to do like the honey finish or the blackbriar finish, I want to make sure that the people we're working with, we actually believe in their process, that they're good people, and we kind of start with a good base. And then from there, I like to kind of go through and pick out, let's say, 10 to 20 barrels that kind of tickle my interest a little bit, kind of lay those out and get what I think needs to happen in my head. And then I like to bring in several people that I trust their opinions on as well. And then we'll sit, do a quiet sampling, and everybody kind of gets their own opinion. And then after that, it's just a huge conversation piece. And we all just talk about it until we come to a consensus. And at that point, as long as the majority feels good about it, then that's what we're going to run with. But it changes every day. I'll wake up and try a spirit on Tuesday and think one thing, and then come back to it Thursday afternoon, and it'd be a little different. So it's just practice and consistency. And if you don't like it the first time, well, swing back and try it again.
Do you know why they decided to start doing this finishing process here? Was there a rhyme or reason? Was it happy accident, or?
I think a little bit of A, a little bit of B. The distillery's always been known for innovation. Nashville's got some cool partners in this part of the state that we're really excited to work with. So the opportunity came up to kind of collaborate with some people, put out something special, and then really kind of showcase what this distillery and the people inside it can do. We've got a phenomenal team. I've got access to so many different types of spirits, ages, and types of barrels with our family constellation that we're part of, so to speak. And that aspect has just been really nice.
Yeah, I noticed that was the similarity between where you're at, the Copper and Keg, And here is Constellation is the overreaching brand
They are the
ambassador
parent
or
company.
the parent company or however you
That's
want.
kind of how I got tied into both. But both distilleries from the get-go, even before Constellation, were definitely known for their innovation and their single barrels, their barrel finishes. And it just kind of, it felt right for me to come in here and kind of take over this one as well.
And for those of you who don't know, Constellation brand has some of your favorite brands out there, like Modelo and Corona, as well as Svedka Vodka, and there's a couple tequilas that they have also under their
Mi
belt.
Campo, Casa Noble, and then High West.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and
Another
High
sister
West. I forgot
distillery,
about that.
So, like,
So-
all of them known for blending and just producing some fantastic whiskeys.
Agreed.
So where do your all's barrels come from?
So most of our barrels are coming out of Kelvin. And then those guys are doing an 18-month outside dry finish on their staves. I think the majority of that wood is coming out of Missouri still. They see a little bit of Kentucky oak, but I think the majority of the actual trees are getting felled there. But yeah, we mainly use Kelvin. I like
Do y'all
those
have a
guys lot.
varying char level that you use, or is it all same char level?
For the most part, it's all the same char level. Now, there are going to be some instances, especially on our single barrels and things like that, where we may want to go a little bit higher. I kind of like a little bit lower char myself and like some toasted oaks. But yeah, that is kind of all the little things popping in my head to kind of explore and play with as we get a little bit further down the line with this brand.
So what is the mash bill on the original sour mash whiskey?
For the Tennessee whiskey, you're looking at about 70% corn,
Okay.
16% wheat, and then 14% malted barley, which is actually pretty high.
Yeah.
And I kind of really think that gives you that malted barley, especially that 14%, gives you that nice chew that you don't necessarily get with a lot of
Okay.
So is there a char level on that one?
others. Yeah, that's going to be 3+, I believe.
Okay.
And then the age statement on those when they're pulled.
Kind of bouncing on that 5 to 6 year mark. It's not necessarily a hard, at this date.
But at least.
We're kind of right in there. But everything's done by taste profile. Like, it doesn't come out till it's ready. Like I said, we'll start internally and taste it. We also send stuff out to some of our other distilleries where I've got some fantastic people with just phenomenal palates. We come together as a team. And when everybody thinks, that bottle or that barrel's ready, that's when she gets pulled.
Do you want to try it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
ready?
We're ready to try that
I
one.
was going to say, let's get into that one and
That
see
was
what it's all
my
about.
that was my
Segue to
cheater
it.
segue.
And I'll hand you the
cheater
bottle
segue.
so that I don't spill all over.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, this was the original formula from the original Nelson's Greenbrier distillery. Super cool story. In my opinion, one of the best modern whiskey stories out there.
I think it's pretty wild because they closed down after Prohibition for a while.
Yeah, they did. So Charles died, let's say the mid 1850s. And then we had Tennessee shut down in 1906 for Tennessee Prohibition. And then it didn't get, revitalized until the brothers came back out. But it was one of the largest, if not the largest, Tennessee whiskey distillery before then, and was shipping this bottle all over the world.
Right, yeah.
Which is super cool to think about. Paris, San Francisco, especially back at that time, absolutely phenomenal. And then you add the fact that it was quietly being ran by a woman who had to be pretty damn cool at that point
to
be
allow that.
running with those rough and tumble distillers. Just such a cool story.
Makes you wonder how much her cooking influence was on, when you do a mash, that care that goes into a recipe, if that carried over from, not to sound sexist, but back then, most women were in the kitchen a lot, creating concoctions and meals for their families. So it makes you wonder if that didn't stick with the mash bill, and that was just like her trying different recipes and was like, this is the one we're going with.
I get the impression she was very hands-on and that she was always in the distillery and she was in charge. So one of my favorite things to do is walk by and put my head in the tank or the tote or whatever it is. Needs a little bit of this, needs a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that's passionate about making anything, not only booze, but whatever, that's just kind of part of it. Like if you're not in there touching it, smelling it, and feeling it, you don't feel connected. So I am almost confident that she was in there probably more than what they wanted.
Yeah.
What do y'all get on the nose on this one? Because I get, for me anyways, I pick up like a sorghum molasses type nose quite a bit, and I'm sure
I do
it's
get a
a play off
sweeter
that
nose
sour
on this.
mash.
I get a slight, touch of vanilla note in there.
I get definitely the softness as well. Plus, I get just a little bit of almost like like a black cherry and then a pinch of like honeysuckle on it as well, especially at that very, very last little bit. Just kind of floatings out to a nice little sweet flower note.
So I can, if I
get that
really
floral at the end,
break it down, I can get those. But like my initial, just throw it up there and it hits me like that sweet, dark, rich tone of molasses or sorghum.
A little bit of leather as well in there.
And then I can get those undertones.
Yeah, it's got a lot of different notes going on.
It does.
Cheers.
The nose is very
We'll get
complex.
into that.
Cheers, gentlemen. I really appreciate the invite today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
So fun, easy sipper, phenomenal story attached behind it, like we talked about a little bit. It's
What's
just a
the
good
proof on
Tennessee
this
whiskey. I think this one's coming in at 92. Yeah, 45.5% alcohol. Drinks pretty smooth for 92.
It does. The flavors are slightly different than what you get on the nose.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's way softer on the palate than
I get an oaky note in there that I didn't really pick up on the nose. But it's real subtle. You know what I mean? It's not like some of those older ones that you drink in at like 15 year, 16, higher, where you get a lot of that.
Then what comes a little bitter, and chalky.
That tannins that come through more. Like, I think this, at whatever year they pulled it at.
Which I like that in a spirit. The more that's in that glass that you can talk about and conversate about, that is really what I'm trying to create, is a conversation in a bottle. Whether it be brandy or bourbon or gin or absinthe or whatever it may be. Just being able to sit down and like talk about it and like picking up the noses on the palate or picking up the taste profile on the palate and then smelling it as well. Letting it sit on the table for a few minutes and then coming back to it and talking again how it changes. Stuff like that gets me excited.
I get a little bit of nuttiness.
I was going to say a cola note. Like, I taste cola up front, and then as it rolls off, it almost has an effervescence cola going on when you sip on it. I don't know if you guys get that or not, but that's what I get. That
it's good. I like it.
This is one that's crushable.
Yeah,
as a lot of people like to say. You could sit on a porch, and this could be dangerous.
Yeah, it's a good one to sit on the table for sure.
I mean, I do enjoy a good sour mash from time to time.
I do too. I find myself leaning a little more towards rye these days, but then I also find my taste profile change based on weather. When it gets a little bit hotter and a little warmer during the summertime, I tend to go with a sweeter whiskey, a little bit softer.
Yep.
And then this time of year, as it's time to like pull the coat out and put a hat on and all that, I tend to lean a little more towards the spicier ryes.
Something gives that nice hug.
Correct.
Right, yeah. Warm you up quick. That's why I like the higher proofs come wintertime too, because you get that heat. Warms you up quicker.
Yep.
Do you guys still use that, was it the Lincoln County process?
Yeah, with the charcoal mellowing. Yes, for all of our traditional Tennessee whiskey, we are definitely running it over charcoal filters.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was something you guys were continuously doing or if that was just in the beginning process and that it kind of maybe had fizzled out, but that's good to know.
Nope. It is definitely part of Tennessee heritage. I feel like it puts definitely that tagline on a Tennessee whiskey and kind of helps separate it from its northern and southern counterparts. And I like that. It's part of the story, and that's what's super cool about Tennessee is like they've really held on to like their heritage and history and their style.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what makes the world go round. Everybody being a little different.
Yeah, this noses really well.
She clings on the glass quite well. I mean,
it's got nice legs.
It does.
It's almost really a skirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's nice.
The complexity on the nose is rather impressive.
Right, and I could see why this did so well for so long. If this was what they ran and they were sending overseas and everyone was like, yeah, we got to get this.
Plus, Nelson's was one of the first ones to actually sell whiskey by the bottle instead of the barrel. And then he was very upfront about what went in it. They prided themselves on quality and consistency from bottle to bottle. And really, I think that's what kind of pushed them across the world. It was like, it's a whole lot easier to shove a fifth in your bag than it is a barrel. And then when you're tasting bottle one and then you come back, 2-3 months later and get another fifth when you're back in town and it tastes just the same. It's especially back then, the irregularities and the changes from batch to batch was a lot. So finding some sort of consistency.
And I would imagine if they were selling them by the barrel and it was going by the boat overseas, that would have a lot of changes to the characteristic that would be hard to deal with.
Have to be.
You know,
I mean, it was a bit of a journey. Definitely the salt air and stuff definitely changes how that barrel breathes a little bit. Constantly the swish instead of sitting in the rick house. You know, I don't know. It's just a cool part of history to think about.
Speaking of rick houses, where is the rick house for this location?
So most of our barrels, or I'm not going to say most, we have a northern barrel house on the north side of town. We hold several barrels. We have several barrels here, and then we store a few barrels at a few other locations as well.
And those like different levels, floors, or are they just like an open air kind of?
It's a little more of an open air kind of deal. As we go to buy whiskey and stuff like that for our blending process, I'm a little more particular on where it's coming in the rick house. But as far as barrels that we're holding at the moment, it's a little more open air.
So now I remember in the beginning when it was the other brand, there was a lot of outsourcing from MGP, right? Are you guys still sourcing from MGP, or are you trying to practically do everything in-house now?
So we like to do as much in-house as possible, but we are definitely known as a blending house.
Okay.
I love MGP whiskeys. I think especially 10 to 15 years ago, man, that place was carrying the American Whiskey Society.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, like I said, they're very, very consistent. As far as I'm concerned, I will always like to use a little bit of those guys.
Okay.
We also use other distilleries in Kentucky and in Tennessee as well. I'm not necessarily so much bent up on where it's coming from. I just want it to taste good in the glass and know that it's something that I can blend and play with. And anything past that is all bonus. I just want the quality to be there.
Now, go ahead.
For your in-house, where do you source your grains?
So that is a really good question. We try to get as much locally as possible. That being said, rye does not necessarily grow in Tennessee as well as it should.
Yeah.
And then there's definitely been some shifts in the grain market as far as wholesaling and stuff go. So we try to pull as much from Tennessee as possible, but I am not afraid to go to Illinois or Canada or Indiana or anywhere like that to pull a nice quality grain. Again, it just comes back to like cleanliness and sourcefulness, you know, what type of field it was in, the climate it was grown in, because that all makes a difference. Not so much on annual crops as perennial, but you can still taste the difference. And we're always looking for consistency.
Now, do you have somebody that goes out to these locations?
So in the past,
that?
yes, and then me being the new head distiller, I'm assuming that's going to be my role.
Okay.
So I love going out in the field. I can speak corn, I can speak rye.
I was going to say, with your background in
So
that.
like I'm super excited about that aspect, to kind of get back out and talk with farmers. I feel like a lot of people, especially in the whiskey business, kind of lose that a little bit. They don't necessarily talk about the specific farmers as much. But as a craft distillery, it's such a big part of the story that that's kind of be one of my new focuses, is to kind of bring that into the story and into play. If nothing else, for my own head and my own satisfaction.
I imagine it's the same thing, because like raising horses and stuff, you have to go and check the alfalfa or whatever they're about to eat, and you want to make sure it's quality. And you do the little thing where you smash and smell it and check.
Can't be too wet, all that good stuff.
And all that. And I'm sure it's the same way when you go to select these grains. You know, you have probably a fragrance that you're looking for when you smell it.
Correct.
And then, I don't know if you gnaw it or if there's a process.
I do, yes.
Okay,
I like to chew it and see how it kind of breaks in the mouth. I like to kind of see how it lingers after I spit it out, and like what does it does, how does it coat.
Yeah.
And then I'm really interested in moisture content as well, just overall like storage aspects.
And then wondering what kind of chemicals they've been using and everything
Correct.
else, pesticides.
It makes a difference because we're becoming more educated as a society about where our food is grown, how it's grown, where our whiskey's coming from. People are concerned. I'm interested in the conversation, and it's important. And I think that if we're not trying to like start to push that and make sure that we're growing and producing quality products, we're going to lose something and we're going to find ourselves in trouble. So like making sure that we're using the best material, that we're having the relationship with our growers, that they're doing the best they can, it just shows up in the bottle. There's no doubt about it. Good in produces good out.
Do y'all use the same corn across the board, or do you use different types of corn?
We try to use pretty much the same corn across the board. There is a little bit different. Well, we use the white and the yellow corn. That's about as specific as I'm gonna get with you guys. But yeah, we try to keep it as consistent as possible. But I mean, it's
so is the white and yellow combo the peach and cream?
Is that what they calling it?
We'll go with that.
Now, my question is,
peaches and cream.
I think it was a couple years ago that they're kind of forced distilleries to state on the bottle where the juice came from, whether it was made in-house or sourced or whatever. Do you think that's going to be a trend going forward as far as mash bills? That's going to be something that's going to be a requirement?
I'm not going to say it's going to be a requirement, but I like the idea of putting it on the back label.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, who doesn't want to know exactly what it is? And especially with us whiskey geeks, I mean, that's what we like to talk about. Right. So there's a few guys out there that are starting to put it on the back label. I find that super cool. I've always been about transparency the most I can be.
Yeah.
And I feel like just putting out, like, this is how we do it. This is why we do it. And we hope you enjoy it, and that's kind of how it should be, in my opinion. So I'm not going to say that they're going to regulate it to make that happen, but I do think going forward that you're going to start to see a lot of other people do it. I mean, there's several big guys that are starting to play with that on the back label, so it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I would love to see some of those, I guess, bigger brands out there that are in the Lexington area. put their information on there because everyone's just like, well, it's Mash Bill 1, Mash Bill 2, or Mash Bill 3. And
we talking about that area from Lexington to Louisville? That section there? Is that what we're referring to?
Yeah, there's this one place. But they have fantastic stuff out there too. I
think you'd call that Whiskey Row.
I do wonder, we had asked when we came in about maple being done for this year. Is that going to be back on the plate, or is that not a thing?
Nope. So it is definitely going to be a thing. Okay. I'm not going to say that we're going to see it this year. But I am a big fan of maple finishes. They are not my favorite barrels to play with because we end up losing a lot out of them.
Okay.
But the taste profile that I get from it, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So yes, I am currently in the process for hunting down some maple barrels.
Okay.
I just actually talked to a guy the other day that's got some maple brulee barrels that I'm looking at. So yes, there's some good things coming in the future.
Now, where do you source those types of barrels, like honey barrels and whatnot? Do you have a specific one place, like a one-stop shop, or is it kind of like you have different sectors that you go like, hey, I'm going to go to Ohio to this farm for honey, and I'm going to go to Missouri for this one for...
If we can, we like to have specific purveyors of our barrels.
Okay.
The Blackbrier is definitely coming from somebody. The Honey Cask is definitely coming from somebody as well. That being said, especially having the nice relationship with Kelvin, and they're such a big barrel broker in the nation. A lot of people just think that they're just, because they're in Louisville, they're just dealing with bourbon barrels, and they get a lot of bourbon barrels. But they are actually a huge hub to ship barrels all over the world.
Right.
So those guys will call us a lot and be like, hey, we've got such and such, and we got 10 of these or 5 of those. And I'm always about a good adventure with the barrel. It's kind of like opening up a Christmas present every day when you tap into them. So I'm never going to say no because it's in some certain section. But I do like having the relationship with certain people that I know their quality and I can help tell the story kind of deal.
Yeah, I missed out on buying one of those before it sold out. So I was a little sad. When we'd asked the lady in the shop if they were going to do it, and she was like, no. And I was like, oh, no, I missed the one time. I was like, come on. Because I got the honey from last year. I didn't get this year's honey. I got this year's. I didn't get last year's.
So is it safe to say that a barrel is like a box of chocolates? You never know what you're going to get.
I'm glad somebody brought that up.
Because it's true, though.
Oh, my gosh. It's so, especially the longer it sits.
Yeah.
You can definitely kind of pick out the nuances with new American oak barrels. And the older they get and you change in the rick house, you can taste those differences. But I find when you start doing that second use and even sometimes the third use, that's really when that V starts to spread out and like one over the other, even though they're sitting side by side, can be crazy in differences. And that just gets me so excited.
Have you guys thought about doing like a triple cask finish or anything wild like that?
Well, I've got the double oak that we're going to try today.
Okay.
I don't think we've done a triple cast down here yet. I have done a few of those at my other distillery. I am not opposed to doing it.
That's kind of why.
Yeah, there's not necessarily like we only do it once or twice. I'm all about layering flavors. There are some times when I'll put something in a barrel and maybe it'll go a little long, or I'll find that it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
And I often find that taking that and flipping it into something else, even for a small period of time, can really complicate and elevate that overall taste profile, which is super cool.
You guys have, go ahead. We got to time this a little better. Like, raise your hand. You got a question?
All right. Need a little buzzer or something.
There you go. A little flag.
Vibrates. Yeah. I got a question.
Yeah, right. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So the double oak, is that part of your Barrel your own.
Yeah, so the bottle your own experience. This is super cool. And when we get
barrel
done with
your
this,
own, yeah.
you guys will have to
That'd
come
be
back
funny,
in
barrel
there.
your
Everybody
own.
wants to barrel their own.
That's the next big one.
Yeah.
Screw by the bottle. Let's do it by the barrel.
That would be a wild process. People would love to sign up for.
So super fun with the bottle your own experience. I believe right now we're going to do specific tours for it where you got to kind of sign up. Eventually, though, I think you're going to be able to do it at every tour.
Nice.
Which is going to be really nice. But what this is going to allow really for us to do as production people is to get the team super excited about doing really small batch stuff, not necessarily having to worry about coming up with an entire new label, an entire new MPD process, and just be able to turn and burn these really cool expressions that we're just kind of like playing with in the back of their head.
Okay.
A lot of times, we'll run across, 2 or 3 barrels of just something weird and random, and we're like, well, that may or may not work. But having this bottle your own program really kind of allows us a little more freedom to kind of play. So we don't necessarily have to push it across the country. It can just sit right here. It's a good conversation piece. The apparatus to fill it up looks super cool, and it's just really neat. So the first one we have is a double oak.
Okay.
And this is kind of an accidental barrel. So 2017, we made this. It was just a traditional whiskey. We were moving it, and it fell in 2019, and the head popped off. So they lost quite a bit. But they were able to pick it up and throw it back in. And they threw it in a new barrel and just kind of sat and forgot about it. And then when we started talking about the bottle your own process, and we started looking for all of our samples and stuff like that we could play with, we ran across this one, and I tasted it, and it was like, phew, that's something special. So we decided that was going to be the very first one. It's not a lot of it. I want to say there's only probably like 20, 23 cases in that barrel. So pretty low, but it's a phenomenal tasting.
Well, now I want to taste it.
That the next one?
That's coming.
Sure.
I guess, the next
All right.
one.
Sure.
That's the next on the docket, I suppose.
Well, had we not jumped into that one, my question was going to be out of what's on the table, and I'll use that later, is what is the first cast finish
Man,
you all
the
did?
darkness on that.
Yeah, she's heavy.
Buddy, that is dark.
Motor oil. And then we're coming in at 120.
Looks like
Wow.
a stout beer. You know what I mean? Like how dark that is.
Yeah, she's cool.
That is
That's got
unique.
so much dark fruit on the nose.
Oh wow.
So much dark fruit.
Usually there's 1 or 2 outliers of people that are like, well, I don't quite like this one, or this one's not my favorite. But this one was unanimous. Like, this got everybody in the distillery excited. So really, really happy to have this one as our first expression.
Smells like Dr. Pepper or RC Cola mixed with something. It's got a unique.
It does have a little bit of that cola note on the nose, doesn't
You
it?
calling it Dr. Pepper because it's got them 23 flavors?
Yeah, right. Doctor, give me the news.
Wow. That
Wow,
is
that smells
super
fantastic.
dark fruited.
Yeah. It's very different than the first one we just tried.
So,
I'm not one of
Nashville?
them to give a lot.
I don't know if I can give this one out. We're going to let that one ride.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, when I swirled it and I caught it just right, I get a hint of
Like sassafras.
tobacco.
Oh, I
But
did
it's,
get that on
a
the
sweet.
taste.
It's a sweet tobacco.
When you taste it, you'll get that. Well, I did anyway.
I ain't tasted it
tastes
yet.
like
I'm enjoying.
I get the red man chewing
Yes,
tobacco.
Ooh,
exactly
yeah.
is what I caught
Yeah.
on the nose. As soon as that swirl hit me, like instantly, I'm like, Red Man.
Yeah. That's dangerous.
I haven't
mean,
seen a package of that in a while.
I've been chewing. I started chewing tobacco at 5 years old. Red Man Select. So
That's some Eastern Kentucky
I
stuff
can
right there.
nail it. I can nail that smell real quick.
Are you still chewing?
I've dipped since I was 13 and ain't quit.
Yeah, he does
Mama didn't raise no quitters.
Copenhagen now, right?
Yeah,
The long
Copenhagen.
cut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never could. I tried when I was younger, and
That's what I should have got you for Christmas is a bunch of Copenhagen.
It spun my head once behind the bar, and
I'm
I was
easy to
done.
buy for. Jeans, flannels, and Copenhagen. We're good.
So,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I like it.
And a F100.
No, it's got to be a 350.
No, I thought you wanted that classic.
Oh, that's a F100 1955 or 54 step side.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Uh-huh.
all right.
Yeah, that'd be neat if you guys had some like a classic vehicle inside the distillery here.
I'll put that on the list.
Give it some like flair, nostalgia, you know.
I mean, I
It just
could have
gotta be a
sold you
shell. It
a.
don't have to be
yeah,
a real
that's
car,
right.
you know.
I could have sold you a 1973 Ford Ranchero with the original Cleveland in it. Y'all could have painted it and put your logo on it.
It looks so good.
And the barrel sitting in the back with
It's
the
like a
cargo
mullet,
net.
you know
Come
what I
on,
mean?
Man.
right?
That's what rancheros are like, mullets.
Yep, exactly.
Everybody
Business in
really
the
wants
front,
one.
Party in the back.
They had their time and place in history, and that's about it.
Well, I mean, when I went to sell that thing, I got phone calls, text messages
Oh, I
like
bet.
crazy.
Hmm.
But because it was a fuchsia,
Took a little longer.
no,
did.
they wanted to lowball me. Until some guy drove by and he said, my daughter's gone by this thing 4 times now and said, you are buying me this. This is my first car when I'm 16. So he said,
There's like a root beer note
buy
when
it.
you taste it. It's like I get that tobacco, but it's like root beer in a little bit.
The chew on this one and the breath out is where I really find
love
this
the
one
viscosity.
shines. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
the mouth feels real good.
Yep.
the mouth. And what I've learned through our journey is I like that thick coating. I like it.
Yep. I want to be able to
I like
smack
it.
the jaw, still taste it, and that breath out, be like, that's
And
the
then I
spirit.
like how when it rolls around the back, I can literally feel myself start salivating.
On
Yep.
the finish, I get like a German chocolate cake with the
I can
coconut.
get-
and
I
the
I
can
like
chocolate.
that. We're gonna have you guys come in and do some of our tasting.
I can
You know,
definitely-
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I get that.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I saw you guys did a Fred Minnick barrel pick.
We did, yes. Oh my gosh, so much fun. So
Yeah.
he came down. We ran through like 6 or 8 barrels with him. He picked out one, absolutely delicious. That one came out at 119.2.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then I think it sold and like to the public, it was gone in like 15 minutes.
Holy cow.
We did a private Cooper's Club tasting with myself as the first one the day before, and so most of it. But yeah, it was such a cool barrel.
Maybe someday we'll have a bourbon sauce barrel.
There you go. Hey, come on by. That's part of the whole bottle your own experience
Right.
also. For like, it's going to be a lot easier to bring people in and like have them pick a barrel, and then maybe like they'll do the opening part of it, and whatever they don't want, we'll sell the later half to the public or whatever it may be. But the bottle your own is going to open up a lot of avenues for this distillery.
With that, are they going to be able to do their own name on it somewhere, or like any sort of thing that denotes that it's their own thing?
As far as a private pick or something like
Yeah.
that. So there are a few regulations on labels.
Okay.
But and I hate to say this on the air, but there are a few loopholes as well. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that we could get a sticker
Okay.
that you could apply.
Yeah. What I like doing is when we go places, and Ryan and I have done this a lot, is we get the distillers and the owners and whoever to sign our bottle that we buy. You know, it's just a keepsake. You know,
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't drink it. It's just it sits on the shelf. It's what do they call that? Bar jewelry.
Memento.
Well, yeah, but I mean, normally when they sit in the back of a bar and it doesn't look like anybody's
Bar
drinking.
jewelry, shelf
Yeah.
jewelry.
With that discussion, as far as mash bills, what is your personal opinion as to why that's something that's held so close to the vest with the company? Is because people should be more concerned with how long you cook it, at what temperature you cook it. I mean, there's so many other things that go, because I can have the same mash bill as you, but it come out completely different.
Oh, I'm in total agreement. And the same way with fruit and all that stuff. Just because we're starting out with the same base ingredients does not mean we're going to make the same exact thing. I think it kind of started out as like, everybody's a little sensitive on their own recipe and how they bake the cake, so to speak. And I think that just kind of honestly just kind of snowballed for years and years and years. I think we're just now kind of starting to like stop and reconsider that, so to speak, and be a little bit more open.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the drinking public has changed, and they're way more interested in the conversation and what went into it than they are just the overall, finished result. So I think we're going to see a change. Like I said earlier, I like the transparency aspect of it because you're not going to be able to duplicate what I am doing just because you're not cooking on this pot and you're not fermenting in here and all that good stuff. And I like seeing the differences.
You triggered my next question.
What you got for me?
Great segue. What types of stills do y'all use?
So we have a hybrid pot.
Okay.
She is Louisa, is her name. She's 750 gallons.
I thought you were going to say 750 years old. I was like,
Nope. She's a beautiful hybrid pot out of Vendome. Gorgeous still.
Vendome, okay.
Yeah, they are the in my opinion, the cream of the crop for still production. I love those guys. The world's oldest and longest running brassworks manufacturer, and they do nothing but quality.
So, because I like to ask this one, what do y'all do with your byproduct when you're done distilling?
So we've got a great big tank out in the back, and then we've got a bunch of local farmers that come and pick up all of our stuff. We
Love it,
waste
love
not,
it.
want not.
Love it.
Yes. We're all about the local connection. I'm hoping, and don't hold me to this, but I'm hoping eventually we can start bringing in some of that livestock and serving it at the restaurant to kind of do the whole full circle. That's
Little
another
bourbon
idea
infused.
kind of burning in the
That's
head.
full on Lion King
Yeah.
right there. Circle of life.
Yeah, you little bourbon infused pork,
But,
little bourbon infused
nothing-
cow.
Say, so everybody else gets to enjoy it, and then it goes to the cows and the pork, and they get to enjoy it. huh?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
And make everybody happy.
Do you guys bring in your own water, or do you have a local like reverse osmosis system, or like?
So city water running with reverse osmosis.
Okay.
And I feel like that's just about how everybody does it these
Yeah,
days.
I mean, I noticed that some places they'll bring in totes if they can't do that. And I don't know if they're doing straight limestone water, or purified or distilled, or
I think it varies because it definitely changes the taste profile.
right.
I've Kentucky, Tennessee, we're known for that limestone hard water. That is why we're all here. That also being said, man, humans are dirty. So like we've got to kind of clean things up a little bit.
Right.
And it's that give and take. But I like that calcium rich water. I just feel like it just makes a good whiskey and a good brandy. It's the hardness, and it kind of fights a little bit against that spirit, so that it kind of holds up, makes it just a little bit stiffer. When you start doing it with soft water, it gets a little flabby for me, and it's just not quite the same.
So y'all going to do a brandy finish at some point?
Yes, for sure.
So on that note, which of the current cast finishes on the table was the first?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Don't hold me to this one because I'm new, but I'm pretty sure it was the honey. I think that's kind of
was
what
the
really,
first?
I think so. That's again, fantastic question.
Yeah.
And you guys may have to look that one up. But I know that the honey that one kind of put us on the map.
Yeah.
That was the first
one's
one
pretty
where like
fantastic.
everybody like, ooh, man, these guys know what they're doing. That's a cool finish. It's a phenomenal bottle.
Just a
Oh
little.
man, I feel like we should have rinsed these, but you know what?
Yeah, it's
Cross contamination, it's whatever.
What I've-
professionals.
One thing I've learned, or at least I've learned about myself with me and him, is I'm not as big of a cast finish guy.
Okay.
I used to not be.
I'm like really big into what I can pull from that bourbon or what I can pull from that whiskey. Not that I don't enjoy some cast finish,
Right.
but I prefer the standard bourbons.
More traditional.
Right?
All right.
Especially the single barrels, because I went from being a small batch guy to after our first year and my palate developing and learning that, I'm like, I really like these single barrels. I really like these full proofs, right? So that's where it went. And then I noticed probably last year, he's really shifted into those cast finish. And he's
I just
really
like to
enjoyed
challenge
those.
my palate, you know
right?
what I mean?
Whereas like
Just that extra layer.
I can drink them, and I don't know that you'll ever get me to enjoy a wine cast finished.
You're
bourbon.
not much on the wine finished
Nope.
whiskeys?
Not typically.
I like red wines, not white.
I do enjoy a nice sherry cast finish. I have learned that a sherry cast finish, I have yet to find one that I don't enjoy, and some I enjoy more than others. Port, the only way I'm enjoying it is if it's high enough proof to put it on a cube.
Okay.
And then what I found a lot of times is the ports that I put on a cube turn into this chocolate bomb.
I get that a lot.
But
as
just
well.
neat. The ports, I'm just like, why am I chewing dirt?
A little tight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to brandy, those are wines essentially.
Yep.
I would be interested to see
A
to
brandy
try that
finish.
brandy finished.
Yeah.
The brandy is a little softer than a whiskey traditional on a molecular level. And I find that because of that, brandy's a little more promiscuous than a whiskey. She likes to play with everyone.
Yeah.
So I really like a brandy that is finished in something else. Whiskeys, it kind of depends. I do like a red wine finish, just mainly because I'm a red wine guy, and I kind of like how it changes and kind of gets that fat spot in the
Do
center
love
on a
that.
red wine. The whites, I've had a few that I've absolutely loved. I've had a few that it's been hard to find. Now, we have a white wine cask coming out in July. We're doing a Catalina wine mixer party for July 4th.
It's the fucking Catalina wine mixer.
Yep. So if you guys are in town, please come by and hang out.
When is that?
It's July 4th.
4th of July.
Yep, for Charles Nelson's birthday.
I'll be home. What's up?
And it's in Sauterne barrels. And
Okay.
it is, it's a good one. I tried it for the first time a couple weeks
barrels?
ago. Sauterne barrels. And
Sauterne.
Yeah, that's a region out of France.
Okay, because I saw the Cavaldos, and then you have the Madeira.
Yep. Oh, that is another
Oh.
delicious one.
This one's so soft and sweet and just mellow. Like,
The honey's there, but it doesn't
it's not overwhelming.
it's not overwhelming. Exactly. It's just enough to coat it for a second, but you're not smacking it where it's just honey. The whiskey kind of rides in, especially at the end.
But I feel like
See-
that honey makes it that viscosity level where it just slows it down on your tongue a little bit, and
And
then
I
it lets you enjoy it
I
as
think
it rides
that's
out.
where, as much as I it's good, it's really good. But when I picked this up the first time he gave it to me, in my head, Winnie the Pooh's dancing around doing the wiggles, and I'm about to bury my face in the honey pot, right? And then I get it, and I'm like, this is good. This is really good. Got a good flavor. I'm like, this isn't where my mind was.
Yeah.
I had built this.
So
Winnie
you're
the
looking for a
Pooh-
little more honey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was full
I like
on.
the hint of honey.
I was full on Winnie the Pooh coming out of
Yeah.
the pot, and it's just everywhere, right?
Yeah,
I just
I'm more on the hint aspect as well. I find that if you had a lot more honey notes in this, that
drown
it
it.
would be a little unapproachable for me.
I think you're right.
I like a drier finish, and I'm a bee guy. I've been raising bees for a while. My grandfather, my father were into bees, so I've got a hive at the distillery in Louisville, hive at the house, and I'm always chasing a good
beekeeper on the side.
beekeeper on the side, plant guy, all the good things.
That's a good background though, because with your botanicals and bees, you can do a lot with understanding how the chemistry and everything else goes into making these bottles. And
That was the plan.
Okay.
You know, if nothing else, just kind of I'm not going to say I'm a prepper by any stretch, but I do like having the idea of being self-serving as much as possible. So I'm all about just that full circle to where I can do start to finish and have very little, if zero, outside inputs. Well, if you guys find yourself a little bit of extra time in September around the Bourbon Festival, please come up to Copper and Kings, and we'll get into some single barrels up there. I'd love to take you guys out to our rooftop restaurant as well.
Sure.
You guys
Absolutely.
definitely need to stop here at Nelson's and have lunch.
Yeah.
Because the food here is phenomenal.
oh man, if you guys are looking for a place in Nashville, you have to try the food here. The food here is phenomenal. The the bourbon is great too. And the people are phenomenal. They're very helpful.
He's had lunch here. I haven't.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
good
poor.
spot.
I'm poor.
Yeah.
That makes two of us.
That's why he's got two jobs. as
the last thing we
master
wanted
distiller.
to try was
A
the
really
bottle and
expensive
bond,
wife.
right? Is that what we're gonna try?
I don't know, because I've been stuck since we walked in on why is the rum gone.
Oh, you wanted to try the rum?
I've been stuck on it.
The pirate in you is bothering?
Yes.
Grab the bottle,
The
sir.
pirate in me is bothering me.
So this one's actually a 3-year.
Okay, so this is a
So
younger
this
bourbon.
is
No, the
interesting.
finish is 3 years.
Oh, the finish is 3
The
years.
finish
so it
is
sits in a
3.
rum cask.
Sits
for 3
in a
years.
rum, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what's interesting. I'm not a big cast finish guy, right?
As he
Somebody
drinks
got
all
me.
these cask finishes.
I'm not saying I don't enjoy them, but it's not my go-to if I'm snatching something off the shelf, right? Ooh, hang on.
Oh, that was a good one.
That's a good pop.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get the neck pour for yourself.
Mm-hmm. But so what I'm getting at is, I don't typically gravitate to them, right? I'll try them, I'll drink them. Somebody got me a rum finished rye, and I tried it, and I'm like, they're like, "Here's your bourbon." I'm like, first off, this isn't a bourbon. This is a rye whiskey, but thank you. So I poured it and I tried it, and I was like, holy shit. Okay. So then I started chasing more of the rum finishes. So when I saw this one, I'm like, I've tried.
You almost gave yourself a damn pour on that.
Oh, almost.
No, it's professional
Yeah,
pour.
Yeah.
See, ooh, there, professional pour. That's master distiller approved.
Rum, the last spirit of the Wild West. This
So-
is the last one, in my opinion, that's not quite been tamed yet.
This is gonna be
Ooh, that nose.
a mix of honey and rum in mine. But
That nose.
when it comes to these finishing, Do you have an idea of something that you haven't finished yet that you want to try besides the brandy that we talked about?
Yeah, I've got a few that I'm kind of piddling with. I'm not quite ready to release them just yet.
Okay.
I'm always a fruit guy, so I'm always going to lean towards the wine and the peach and the pear and stuff like that. I'm also looking into I like a good Amoro. I didn't say that word right.
Amaretto or?
An amaretto is nice, but like a vermouth cask I'd like to do as well. There's several in there. The wine finishes are really interesting to me. And then there's a couple other like dessert wines that I'd kind of like to do some finishes with. There's a couple unreleased things at Copper and Kings that I'd like to kind of do some collaborations with down here. So yeah, the head is always spinning.
This smells like Frangelico.
This is very, very subtle. The
you know
rum
what I mean?
finish.
Like that chocolate liqueur, the sweet, like
So I get a lot of rum on the nose.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Like it's
Yes.
like punch you in the face rum on the nose.
I get that cinnamon.
But on the taste, it is
very, very, very soft.
Very soft.
Yes.
I get the hint of that rum coming through.
I
So
usually pick
compared
up
to-
most of the rum like on the breath out and the smack of the
So
jaw.
compared to the other rum finishes I've tried, this one's rum is much more
prominent.
mellow,
Oh, okay.
start to finish. And like on that exhale, I get more of the rum, like a Caribbean breeze kind of thing going on. But the nose is very rum-esque.
Yeah, I find this one very sessionable. Like I can sit down with a bottle of this, and before I know it, a good chunk of it's gone.
It smells like chocolate on
This
the
could
nose.
get me in a lot of
There's
trouble.
a lot of chocolate on the nose.
This rum cast finish could get me in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Nelson's is really good about that balancing and that just right finish. All of their whiskeys just tend to sit just perfect on the tongue and like really ride from start to finish. It's one of the most impressive things about this distillery is just the overall like start to finish across the palate is pretty damn consistent.
So you all have one blender or multiple blenders in-house?
Well, that's a really good question. So we definitely have a blending team.
Okay.
But as far as like sitting down and like coming up with the blends, I have a lot to do with that. Our distillers have a lot to do with that. We will send samples out to Utah and have some of the High West people look at them as well. That's kind of, especially once I've kind of gotten started here, I've really tried to broaden out the spectrum of people that are tasting and blending here. The more palates, the better. Like I said, I've got some people that I work with that I'm like just so impressed with their palate. It's absolutely insane. So like the more I can get it like in your hand and like hear what you have to say about it, the better. It's typically, down to 2 or 3 of us that are making those final decisions. But I definitely like that team aspect, whether it be a tour guide or just the janitor or whoever.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer. And I find the more people involved, the better this place runs, just because everybody's excited about what they're doing. Everybody's got their own personal story to it, and it just helps sell the bottle better.
No, I agree with that. That's a great aspect because it takes a team to win a game.
It
know what
does.
I mean? And you guys are in the game of bourbon or whiskey, whatever you want to call it, but it takes a collaborative to do that.
So just because I'm not here and let's say, you come in late and the bartenders are the only two that are in the back talking, I still want them to have that connection so that they can smartly talk about the product. They have their own personal aspect they can add into it because that's what sells the bottle.
Yeah, so when it comes down to like the restaurant side, are those people, I mean, you have like places where you have sommeliers that are like versed in wines and stuff like that. Are they versed in that same aspect for the people that are in the restaurant where if somebody says, hey, I want to pair a bourbon with this?
For sure.
Okay.
We try to have as educated as a process from the moment you walk in the door to the moment you walk out the door. I want no matter who you to talk to like give you that full-on experience of like, yes, this is what I like, this is what I recommend. This is what the distillery thinks, this is what our head distiller thinks.
Yeah.
But like just having that conversation piece, because it's all about that intimacy, especially with a bottle or with another person or whatever it may be.
Right.
I'm looking for that relationship.
Yeah, 100%. Like Ryan loves to talk about how bourbon is like family. You know what I mean? It's an all-encompassing, not just that hug that you get from family and the warmth from family, but that unique experience that you get from sharing that bottle with somebody else at that table.
Yep.
And so that's great that you guys take that care and nurture that, because that's important, especially for a distillery, to make sure that the people that are talking to other people at the table, like, to be educated enough to speak on how this tastes, what the notes you're getting, and everything else, so you can pair it perfectly with whatever meal that you have or entree you have. So that's great.
And then pairing spirits with food is hard.
It's definitely difficult.
It is, especially the higher proof you go. So I always get crazy excited when I find something that really works well with a spirit, especially a whiskey. And I feel like Nelson's is really, really good about that.
Yeah.
The entire experience here has just been it's so much fun. I just enjoy coming down. I love hanging out with everybody. I love doing stuff like this. So thank you guys very much for coming in and having me. The day-to-day is phenomenal. And like, that's, in my opinion, that's what it's about, the day-to-day.
Well, I got to know, because we already talked about the sour mash bill.
Okay.
What is the mash bill going into your cast finish?
So traditionally, they're the bourbons.
Yep.
And again, I'm going to have to pull up my cheat sheet here, and I'm going to get in trouble. So traditionally, you're looking at either a 21% or 36% rye in our bourbons. And then you're going to bounce for the corn anywhere between 75 and 60%. So
Okay.
a little bit of
There's
a
a variance there.
There is
what,
a variance.
What determines that
Taste
variance?
profile and what that barrel finish is going to do. And again, it goes back to the team to be like, I don't want any set rules. Like, we use this, this, and this for our barrel finishes. I want to be able to sit down, taste that barrel, and then dictate the mash bill from there.
So that's why year to year it's different.
Correct. Yep.
And that's what is the draw for these finishes. For those of you who haven't been paying attention to Nelson's, every year they do a release, and it's sometimes they're only specifically you can pick up here at the distillery, but other ones they do push out to, shops that are out there and you can pick them up. But the ones that are here exclusively, buddy, I feel like those are the best.
We came to play.
Yeah. And I know why you only leave them here. It forces people to come here and then do the experience and feel like how Nelson's operates and runs and everything else that goes around that brand. But man, those ones that are exclusive to here are just far better than what you can get on the mass-produced market.
It's worth the trip. Like, no
100%.
doubt about it. I'm really shooting for Nelson's to be like a true iconic pit stop in the city of Nashville. And I feel like we are well on our way.
I think you're well past beyond. Like, when people talk about Nashville and places you can stop to go to distilleries, there's a few of them out there. We all know what those brands are. But I feel like Nelson's is one that's kind of talked about more prevalently than the other ones.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. We're trying.
Why is all the rum gone?
Listen, you pirate. Your favorite's on the table, which we haven't done.
We have not. No, I feel like we're getting a little long in the tooth on samples we're having here.
But
and
this,
I'm enjoying my day.
I feel like is your. Let's explain why this is your favorite.
All right, so my favorite is the rye. And again, I feel like it has a lot to do with the time of year. I like, when it gets cold, I like a little bit of spice. Being a Catholic boy from Kentucky, we were started out on really that sweet whiskey bourbon, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not going to name any names, but I was...
For communion?
Yes, communion, a lot of weddings, and all the good things.
Right.
They substituted that grape wine for bourbon.
just a little. Those Marion
And then
County
instead
boys,
of
you gotta
unleavened
watch
bread,
them.
you got crackers, saltines.
So it started out sweet as a youngster, and as my palate has matured, I have found that I like a little bit more of a spice.
Okay.
And then that rye note, it's just super cool. Plus the aspect that you can't grow rye everywhere.
That's true.
And it is a finicky grain, and I like a grain or any plant that causes trouble and causes a little more consideration when you grow it.
Yeah.
That kind of always scratches the itch. So yeah, and plus it's just a really damn good rye.
Where do
it
you
is
source your
super
rye
smooth.
from?
So it kind of bounces. We're above the Ohio River.
Okay.
And that's where the
That's the
majority of it
demarcation
comes.
line.
Yes, that is
Okay.
the demarcation line. You see a little bit of rye grown in Western Kentucky. You see maybe just a pinch here in Tennessee. But the majority of good quality rye is grown a little bit further north.
Okay.
Rye doesn't necessarily like the humidity.
Agreed. Yeah.
So it takes just a little bit drier.
Unless
and
it's like a,
cleaner
what is
climate.
that, Bermuda? No, that's a different. What? There's several different types of strains of rye.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the amount of varieties of rye and wheat and triticale and all that stuff. It's a whole new podcast to say the
We
least.
could, we could nerd out on that for sure.
But no,
if you guys
I like
want to
my
know about that, leave that in the comments, because if you want to hear, we can come back and have that conversation.
For sure,
Especially with your botanical background.
I like to geek out about plants. All thing plants, I'm in.
Everybody who knows.
All right.
That could be a great conversation piece, talking about how those regions align and the way that imparts different flavors in those different areas. That would be great.
It makes a difference.
I like how I'm liking how he kind of, it's above the Ohio River. And immediately I'm like, oh, almost heroes. We're Chris Farley and Matthew Perry, and we're navigating to be Lewis and Clark here.
We're out there somewhere.
We're out there somewhere. We're just on a flatboat floating.
That's fine.
We're in this general vicinity.
You throw a dart, I'm around there somewhere.
So when you picked this up and you tasted it, why did it become your favorite?
The way it sat on the tongue.
Okay.
So
that's what we're looking for.
The aromatics in the glass are super sweet, and they're classic rye. But when it hits that tongue, the way this one sits, and really the way it finishes, how it's got a little bit more viscosity than you see a typical rye in there, it caught my attention. And I tend to find myself that it usually is my first drink of the day.
So the mouthfeel on this is your favorite?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's where I was going with that. Okay.
Sorry, I'm getting a little long on that one.
No, that's fine. Your explanation is your explanation, man.
You got me over sitting here like waiting to be like, he's like, the way it feels on the tongue. I'm like, that's what she said. But I'm over here like,
He was biting his own tongue.
I was.
Despite your face leaving.
I'm all up for a good pun.
Yeah.
I'm just here to set them up for you guys. Let's knock them out after that.
That's right. You
Put
just
me in,
softball them to
coach.
us.
I'm ready to play today.
All right. Well, let's
We
get
gonna
this
do the rye?
Yeah, we got to try the rye.
Let's kick it off. Oh man.
He got the last neck pour. You're going to get this one.
This is the first time I can remember in a while that we've not had intermittent bottles of water.
Oh, should we be doing that? My bad.
I mean, I don't know that we should have been, but
I tried to set that one up as solidly as I could for the sound.
as soon as I knew you were getting ready to pour it, I shut my mouth.
Yeah.
I stopped my sentence.
Shut your mouth.
Hey, you ain't got to even tell me to shut up. When I know somebody's about to pull a cork, you'll hear me.
Yeah, you want to
quiet.
hear it.
I want to hear that cork pop.
So, why did you guys go with synthetic cork? Is that for cost effectiveness or?
So it is a little cheaper than real cork. It is way more environmentally sustainable than real cork. Coming from the plant background, I'm all about making the world last as long as we can. Plus, I find synthetic corks hold better for longer periods.
Okay.
Dry corks, natural dry corks, they tend to kind of start to crack. And then if you're not kind of really paying attention and working your bottles a lot, you end up losing some old stuff.
Ooh, that brings me to a good question before.
What you got? Finish his thought.
No, you're good. But anyways, I choose synthetic because I just feel like it's a little easier for long-term storage.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Sorry, TBI, and I couldn't let this go.
I got you. Let's hear
It's
it.
like ADD.
What is
Same
working
thing.
your bottle?
Working your bottle. That is going in and turning your bottle upside down to make sure that your cork remains wet, especially with a traditional cork.
So
I
how often
thought
should
you
you do
didn't
that?
want to keep the cork wet because you disintegrate it. With
You
the more alcohol
don't want
that
it
gets
to
in
be constant. Like you don't want a bottle of whiskey to be sit on its side like you do a wine. But that being said, you also want to go in. I usually turn mine once to twice a year. I'll go in, we'll just do a day. I'll make my son and daughter come in and they'll pick up cases and just flip cases back and forth. I just want just a little bit on there just to kind of make sure that that seal is there. And it may just be something in the head that is not necessarily necessary, especially with synthetic corks. But as a traditionalist, that's kind of where that came from.
That makes sense. Brandon, what do you get when you drink this?
So I get that immediately, like pinch right on the mid part of the nose, and then I kind of get a little bit of those like starchy grain notes as it kind of starts to settle. Once I sip it, I get a nice, not like overpowering spice, but a nice little zip down about the first 3/4 of the tongue. And then it just kind of like goes super smooth on me. I like a rye that like I feel in the front part, but like gets really smooth as it bounces down.
I get a good hug on it for sure.
It's a nice blend between a really harsh rye and a really soft bourbon. And I think that's really why I like it, because it gives me a little bit of the bourbon notes and it gives me a little bit of a rye note.
Yeah.
I get rye on the front and bourbon on the back.
And this one again is in Kelvin and
Yep.
char 3, 4.
I'm going to say 3 on this one.
Okay.
That's a good question as well.
There's even like a little bit of a nuttiness back here.
The viscosity
late,
kind of
late
gives me,
finish.
yep.
Yeah.
Late,
I'm in
late.
agreement.
I mean,
Yes.
like light.
It's late. It's late.
Like I
But it
said,
is.
we tried a lot. Yeah, and then Nelson's has even way more than what we've even looked at
there's
today.
a ton.
Like it's absolutely crazy. But the rye is that.
You still got to talk about your bottle and
drink.
bond.
Yeah, we still got to do the bottle and bond too, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on.
Saddle up, Sally.
So, and that brings me to a question I had cocked and loaded here. Bottled and bond.
Yep.
Where do you keep where's your bonded warehouse?
So we have a bonded warehouse off-site on the north side.
That's
of
the
town.
north side warehouse. Okay.
All right, so we're back with the bottled and bond
Bottled and
bottle.
bond. New for us, 100 proof. Really excited about this one. This one's a quality sipper.
Okay.
Another just fantastic whiskey.
And this mash bill is similar to
Similar to the ones we tried earlier on
Okay.
that, 70% corn kind of deal.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, I got the notes. But
Generically,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
You want to try the cork pop?
No, that's all you, sir. That's all you.
You want to do the honors?
I mean, I am the cork popper.
Ooh.
Solid.
I think that may be the best one so far.
That was
a good
pretty
one.
solid.
That was a good one.
That was a bonded pop. This one
mean-
has like a bready cookie note.
I get that too immediately.
Yeah, I get way more baking notes on this one.
It's like a bread pudding.
Oh,
You've got to like search just a little bit harder on the aromatics on this one. She's very soft on the nose, but the taste on this one's, I really like that, especially that initial burst.
There's like a tobacco char finish.
It kind of,
It reminds
honestly, it kind of like the smell
me of
kind
like
of
a
reminds
brisket.
me of a tobacco twist.
I get more of like a cigar box.
I can see
On
that
this
too.
one, yeah.
But I definitely, like for me
That's why I
on the
said
nose,
brisket because it's smoked.
I get
and
like
yeah.
a day's work King Bee twist.
Ooh, all right.
That's what I'm getting. Not like I just opened a pack of
There's like a
Southern
light-
Pride.
There's a light spice there, but
But it's a little bit further back on the palate to be like and it just hits for a minute and then it kind of
it mellows
dissipates.
out real
Yeah.
quick. But it's got like that briskety, smoky, barbecue taste to it.
The smoke
unique.
is faint for me. I get it, but it's faint. I definitely pick up the tobacco-y notes. There's a thin, fine line of sweetness right there. And I mean, it's just the wrong way, one direction, and you would have lost it.
Did you say One Direction?
Yes.
Like that
I
band?
Did. Yeah. Yeah. Are they even still a thing?
No.
Oh, see? One Direction.
There you go.
You
They
lose
were out.
out.
Yeah.
You know? At
Should have
some-
turned around and done multiple.
That was a one-way street. You know what I mean?
She got to end at
It's
some
like
point.
them two paths diverge in a forest.
This is
Some
100
point you got to
proof
take the route less
Yeah,
traveled.
100 proof.
because it's bottle and bond.
It drinks a little compared to some
mouthfeel's
of the other
unique.
100 proofs I've had, the other bottled and bonds I've had. It drinks with just a hint more peppery spice.
Which
on
I
them.
kind of like.
I get more
I don't
oakiness to it.
not like it. I don't not like it, but I get more spice on the back end than some of the other 100 proofs or bottled and bonds. I try not to say 100 proofs because there are 100 proofs that are not bottled and bond.
The tobacco note in me
I'm enjoying
reminds
the
me of,
tobacco
like,
note.
having a dip in. Like it literally has that same feeling in my gum line
Mhm.
that if I just put in
I can see
a
that.
dip.
The flavor of the tobacco is similar to me rolling a cigar across my gums and my tongue.
Okay. I
How
can
like
see
when
that.
when you're getting the tip of the cigar wet.
So what you're saying
Yep.
is this would pair
That's
great
kinda
with a cigar.
I think it would pair
Yeah,
really
Which would be
I
great
think
if
I
they
think
had
it
a
would be
cigar lounge
phenomenal
here.
with
Yeah.
the cigar. I don't
No,
want
this
it
is a-
again.
this is a good pour,
Strike it
though.
off the list.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't think it's as good as the old classic recipe.
There's a little more character in the original Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah.
This one's just an easy sipper.
This
Right.
is
This one's
is
a
get you in
fantastic
trouble
bottle
sipper.
and bond. But I think if you want to go with the original recipe before the bottle and bond, I think that one's a better pick for me. You're double oaked. Ooh,
Well, that one's a whole new level.
That one is just anybody that's looking to expand your palate and sensory whatever. That one's just that'll send you over the edge because that one's got a lot going on.
Yeah, that one's fun. It's a great bottle to start our bottle your own program.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think that was a fantastic pick from you guys. If you were involved in that idea, then
Thank you.
congratulations.
No, they did
Because
a great job.
That's a collaborative effort, I'm sure. The honey, every year, everybody knows about the honey. The honey is just fantastic.
I like how it changes every year, though. It's like you can
does.
pick out year to year
It's
vintages
so different
very, very easily
between the
which
years.
is fun.
And that's because of the fact that you never know what that oak is going to do in the cask. This has been a great interview.
It has.
Appreciate you guys having
No,
me.
man.
It has been a
Brandon, thanks
blast.
for coming on.
I didn't quite know what we were going to get into, but I've had a lot of fun. Thank
We
you
got
guys.
into bourbon.
Yeah, we did.
And if you guys were curious about this, you can come down to Nelson's Distillery here in Nashville. They got a restaurant. They got a store.
Yep, all the good
Is
things.
there some other places people can find you guys?
You can do tours.
Yep, all on social media, Instagram, Facebook, yada, 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 whatever.
TikTok.
I'm sure we're on there as well. Yep,
Okay.
Nelson Greenbrier Distillery. Just type us in and find us. KY Grapes is my personal Instagram tag. I'm so active on there. You'll find all kinds of weird pictures from me.
KY Grapes.
KY Grapes, buddy.
That's fantastic. This has been a fantastic interview. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate
Appreciate
your
it.
time. We appreciate everything that's going on here at Nelson's. We're looking forward to seeing what's coming in the future because it sounds like you're going to be able to have an influence on that, which is fantastic.
I'm trying.
Until next time, drink your favorite drink. Hopefully it's bourbon and get sauced.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.